Okay. Alright. So, last time we have discussed about Adobe Photoshop. Okay. And then, so we're done with that. Right now, we'll be discussing about the new topic natin, which is Adobe Illustrator. And in this topic, we have at least lesson 4 lessons. Okay. We will be discussing about lesson 1 and lesson 2 today. And yung mga lessons natin dito, I'm not sure if you have already checked yung module natin, but hanggat maaari yung mga step by step natin dito yung process natin, meron tayong mga screenshots, steps, tapos yung mga definitions ng mga specific or descriptions ng mga specific terms, and then also we have here yung mga shortcuts, mga file formats, workspaces. So lahat ng to will be going through with it. I advise you to visit yung module natin for, of course, terminologies, ayan, and other description or steps ng mga tools, no? Okay. But as we go along with this discussion dito sa module natin, ang ginawa ko, class, is I have outlined yung mga topics natin for that in PowerPoint. Yan. So, yung mga essentials part ng lesson 1 and lesson 2, yung talagang kailangan natin for lesson 1 and lesson 2, in-outline ko sila. And then, yung iba, like for example, yung mga descriptions, paragraph na ganyan, you can just check and revisit it or review yung mga diniscuss natin pag chinek nyo na itong module. So, same lang din naman. Ibay lang natin ng konti yung approach dun sa discussion because yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng topics, gusto lang natin medyo naka-ayos. Okay? So, okay, let's start. So, Adobe Illustrator, start tayo. What is Adobe Illustrator? First, Adobe Illustrator is a software application that is used for creating, manipulating vector graphics. Yan. In different media. Okay? So, if you are working with Photoshop before, Photoshop is a pixel-based application. It is a software used for enhancing photo manipulation. No? Sa Adobe Illustrator, you'll be dealing with more on creation instead of photo editing, instead of photo enhancement, no, you'll be more on working with creation or illustrating. Yan. You'll be illustrating graphics, making graphics, creating graphics. Para saan? Okay? For web or other digital media or other printable media. Like in your case, since you are in web and mobile track, diba? So, the idea is you can create like web mockups o kaya web assets for your web applications o kaya mobile applications. You want to create your own graphics or assets. Yan, pwede natin gamitin si Adobe Illustrator. Maganda kay Adobe Illustrator, it is a vector graphics application kung saan ang idea is, isa sa mga discussion na binanggit natin before sa graphics is that kapag vector, kahit na i-zoom in or i-scale natin within the application, mapansin natin na still sharp and crisp pa rin yung mga details natin. Like that. Okay? Now, dito sa module, you'll see some examples din na yung mga nagawa ko dito na vector, especially dito sa may lesson 1. And pati yung sa interface natin dito. Ayan. So here, pakita ko lang sa inyo, class, ng quick what does Adobe Illustrator looks like. Okay? So, si Adobe Illustrator looks like more on like similar with Photoshop. And then, mapapansin nyo rin dito sa bandang left side, meron tayong tools panel. Yan. So, tinatawag natin tools panel. Nandito pa rin yung option bar dito sa bandang upper part. Ayan. So, yung nakikita nyo dito merong stroke. Ayan, mga quick properties, kumbaga yan. Nandito pa rin yung option bar natin. Dito pa rin yung menu bar. Tapos, dito sa may bandang right side, similar with Photoshop is that nandito pa rin yung mga other panels. Tapos, syempre hindi mawawala yung layers. Okay? Kung saan sa layers panel, katulad sa Photoshop, you can show or hide yung mga layers natin. Pwede natin silang i-lock and unlock. Pwede kang mag-create, mag-delete, etc. Okay? And sa Adobe Illustrator, what you can do here is, example, you want to create some vector art. In my case, before, nagtry ako mag-create ng parang sample avatar or vector illustration like this. Parang pang profile picture lang, like that. So, nag-sketch ako sa paper, tapos in-scan ko siya. Tapos, nilagay ko sa Illustrator. Tapos sa Illustrator, pwede nating ilagay sa layer yung image na to. And then, pwede natin, kumbaga, parang i-trace, no, yung sketch natin para maging vector siya. And I just added some few different elements. Then, I have here some color palettes na generate natin para magamit for this illustration. Another example na gawa natin before then is sometime nag-try din ako mag-create ng parang cover photo, let's say on your social media page. So, like this one. So, here, yung mga to, they are all vector shapes. Okay. So, dito sa Adobe Illustrator, more on shapes, mag-work tayo more on with shapes. Meron din silang, kumbaga, tinatawag na transparency, as you can see. If I click these objects or circle like that, meron tayo makikita dito like yung opacity. Pwede nating i-adjust yung opacity mismo sa mismong gradient panel natin. Like this, merong gradient panel. You can adjust yung mga colors, etc. And tapos, as we are clicking some objects here, like for example, makikita nyo dito, yung mga nakikita nyo mga dots like that. So, these are anchor points. And then, yung mga connection ng mga dots natin or anchor points creates a path. So, sa Adobe Illustrator, you'll be more on dealing with paths and shapes like that. Let's just admit yung iba. Okay. Another example na maganda gamitin sa Adobe Illustrator is like, aside from working with some illustration, you can also create your logos. Okay. Katulad ng sinabi ko sa inyo before, if you are working with logos, it is very advisable na to use like Adobe Illustrator instead of Adobe Photoshop. Kasi sa Adobe Illustrator, you're purely working with vector graphics. Ang kagandahan ng working with Illustrator is if you create your logo as a vector graphic, then it is okay kapag nag-decide si client na, for example, gusto niya i-scale natin yung logo niya, let's say for larger version, no? Kapag pixel-based yung logo na ginawa mo, magba-blur na yan, no, kapag nag-set ka, lalo na pag naka-limited lang yung resolution. Sa Adobe Illustrator, you can still have this logo na into much larger version. Kahit laki mo pa ng lakihan yan, you'll be able to do it, no, nang walang changes sa quality. And as you can see, it looks a little bit messy this way kasi meron akong mga parang extra graphic dito. Ayan. So, this is just how Illustrator works. Okay? So, nakikita nyo dito ng mga white. Ayan, yung mga white area na to. Ayan. Sa Photoshop, by default, dun sa lumang version kasi ng Photoshop magamit ko, around version 2015 siya. So, dito, yung gamit ko na version is Adobe Illustrator 2019. I'm not sure if this feature is available sa Photoshop, sa mga newer version. But dito, may tinatawag tayong artboards. Okay. Yung tinatawag nating artboard, In this case, ito yung mga white area. Ayan sila. Tapos yung gray area niya sa labas, ayan, dito, ito naman ang tinatawag na canvas, yung gray area na to, where you can place anything you want, any object you want, mga drops mo, pwede mong ilagay dyan. Kumbaga, imagine niyo class, yung tong gray area na to, para siyang table. Tapos yung mga white area na to, ito yung mga paper kung saan ka nagdo-drawing or nag-i-illustrate. And sa Adobe Illustrator, you can create more of this, yung mga more artboards like this. And then, kung ilan yung artboards mo, pwede silang i-treat as pages. So, you can also save this as, for example, a PDF file, no? So, kung ilan yung number of artboards mo na meron ka sa Illustrator, ganun din yung number of pages na magagawa niya. So, yung mga artboards na to will be treated as pages. Okay? So, ganun. Yan. So, I do advise, katulad like this, ayan. So, you can create your own logos like that. And, aside from working out with logos, you can also create other illustration. Like, halimbawa, pwede mong gamitin to use your text. Tapos yung text mo, gawin mo siyang vector like this. Yung text ko na to, hindi na siya editable as text, but rather editable na siya as path. Like this, as you can see. So, ginawa ko yan para ma-customize ko yung text na ginawa ko dyan. Okay? Pwede nga convert dito anything into vector. I have also created an infographic before. So, aside from logos, no, pwede ka rin mag-create ng mga small icons mo dyan. So, let's say you're creating presentations o kaya you are working with mobile apps, gagamit ka ng mga icons mo o kaya web application or website, gagawa ka ng mga icons. You can all create these dito sa Adobe Illustrator din. And they are very scalable. Pwedeng i-change ng size without losing quality, etc. Okay? Yan. So, this is just an example of an infographic na na-create natin before. And this one, eto, nag-create din ako ng sample illustration graphic before din. Yan. So, ito, ginamit siya for a website. Like, sa landing page ng isang website. Ayun. So, here, ayan, no? So, path. Ang daming path na na-create dito sa example na to. But, ang kagandahan dyan, i-scale man, na ma-decide man ni client ko na i-scale up ko to, itong graphic na yan, still, okay pa din yung quality natin. And then, another feature na pwede nating magamit din with Illustrator is like this. I have created originally this graphic. Yan, so merong house, merong other vector elements or assets. And then, let's say what if, yan, sinabi ni client na gawa ka ng something na medyo sunset na yung idea ng color tone, ng graphic. Si Adobe Illustrator, meron siyang feature kung saan you can just easily change yung color or edit yung colors without recreating your graphics. Again, ayun. Ayan. So, later on then, during our discussion, magta-try din tayo mag-create ng sarili nating illustration or drawing with just basic shapes. Sa Illustrator class, meron tayong 2 categories ng pagdodrawing or pag-i-illustrate. Okay? Meron tayong yung basic lang, using basic shapes. Tapos, meron din yung making compound, making advanced or compound or complex shapes. So, sa sa session natin ngayon, yung basic muna yung gagawin natin. Tapos, dun sa next meeting natin, we'll be dealing with complex shapes. Okay? Also, with Adobe Illustrator, pwede ka rin mag-create ng vector pop art like this. So, I'm sure you are familiar with this, si Mr. Bean, yan, si Rowan Atkinson. So, nag-create tayo ng pop art nung last time. And these are all paths. Nakalaki yung layer ko. Yan. Yan, so mga path, lahat yan. Okay. And you can just technically change. You can change colors of anything here like that. Yan, diba? So, so that's Illustrator class, yung sample workspace, sample mga works na pwede nating magawa, and mga sample output. Yan. Okay? Alright, so after showing you some examples, let's have the workspace overview ng Adobe Illustrator. Ano ba yung similarities niya with Photoshop, ano yung mga general workaround na pwede natin gawin sa workspace niya. Okay? So first is, let's talk about yung workspace na meron with Adobe Illustrator. Though nagbigay na ako ng preview kanina, no, ng workspace niya. So sa workspace niya, sabi ko nga, meron siyang tools panel, meron siyang dito sa bandang left side, or rather yung mga panels na ginagamit natin, layers panel, etc., tools panels, option bar. So here, nandito pa rin yon, yung mga application bar, document window, yan. Basta tandaan nyo ng class yung kanina, yung sinasabi ko na artboard. Yan. Artboard provides the design and illustration area sa Adobe Illustrator. Yun yung white area na nakita nyo kanina sa Adobe Illustrator. So here, eto yon, dito ko nilagay yung mga drawings ko, yung mga illustration ko. Tapos yung gray area naman dito, yung number 5, tinatawag naman siyang canvas. Okay? Take note, sa canvas, sa loob ng canvas, you can create more artboards. Okay? You can create more artboards. Katulad ng example ko kanina, dun sa may logo, I have created more artboards here. Right? So, in this canvas. Tapos si canvas, take note din, yung gray area, para siyang table na pwede mong ilagay lahat ng mga tools mo doon, lahat ng kung ano naman mga extra draft mo dyan, etc. Tapos yung mga final na ipiprint mo or i-illustrate mo, pwede mong ilagay dito sa may artboard natin. Alright? And then, also, wait, sali natin. Ito naman, sa UI adjustments. Okay. UI adjustment, pwede nating ayusin class yung preferences natin when it comes to user interface. Especially kung gusto mo light mode, dark mode, etc. I know yung mga iba sa inyo like gumagamit ng mga text editor or programming applications. Meron silang features na ganun na pwedeng light mode, dark mode yung user interface. Dito sa Adobe Illustrator, you can change that. Yung sa akin ngayon, nakikita nyo dark mode yung software ko. Pero dito sa module, kung mapansin niyo yung screenshot ko dito ay naka-light mode siya. So, paano yun natin-change? So, ito lang ang gagawin. Yung iba kasi gusto nila dark, di ba? So, you can just go to Edit, Preferences, and then User Interface. Okay. Yan. So, user interface natin, here, mapansin nyo na pwede mong i-change into light mode or dark mode or medium dark like that. So, pwede kong i-click yung light mode like this. So, magla-light mode yung interface natin. Actually, yung mga older version ng Illustrator, light mode talaga yon. So, pwedeng medium light o kaya medium dark. Yan. So, I do usually use this medium dark. Pwede ring mas dark pa. Katulad yan. Okay. And then, showing panels, window tab. Okay. When it comes to panels class, katulad sa Illustrator, you can always drag your panels like this, yung tools panel. Minsan ginagawa ko siyang floating panel para mas madali ko ma-access yung mga tools na ginagamit ko dyan. Even yung mga panels natin dito, katulad, pwede natin silang i-collapse and i-expand. Ayan, yung mga panels na gusto kailangan natin. Okay. Basta yung pinaka more on magagamit nyo mamaya, makikita natin sa demo. More on layers, tapos yung properties. Sa properties, setting up properties lang. If you are still familiar sa Adobe Animate, before, lalo din sa mga nakapag-take na Adobe Animate before. Almost the same yung idea kasi si Adobe Animate vector din yung nagagawa niyang graphics. Medyo limited lang ng konti kasi more on sa animation yung focus niya. But here, katulad sa Adobe Animate, when you create your shapes or paths or any illustration, meron dito properties panel where you can set yung properties niya, yung color niya, yung stroke niya, etc. Tapos dito sa ibang panels natin, pwede nating iset din yung alignment. Minsan, like if you're creating like professional graphics, like for example logos or gagamitin mo for other platforms, no, it is very important na alam nyo rin gamitin yung alignment. Sa alignment, you can align nyo siya with artboard or selection. Mamaya we can talk about that. Yung colors, swatches available, and tapos yung gradient, yung stroke. So, yung mga properties about stroke and gradient nandito din. So, yun yung mga panels niya. And once na hindi nyo makita yung mga panels na gusto nyo lang ma-access, you can just go right here, dito sa window, and then just check those panels na gusto nyo gamitin. Okay, meron tayong asset export, artboards, color, brushes, etc. So, these are all panels na pwede natin magamit within Illustrator. Also, by default, you might be seeing Essentials or Essentials Classic dun sa inyo kapag nag-install kayo ng Adobe Illustrator. Yan. So, you can always switch back dun sa gusto ninyong interface. Pwedeng gusto mo floating yan. Tapos gusto mo open natin yung other panels. Like, for example, yung layers panel. Ayan siya. Open natin yung align panel. Sorry, okay. So, let's say may floating ka na align panel dito. Floating din natin si pathfinder panel. Like that. And then, you want to save this interface. So, what you can do here is you can just always click this. Tapos, new workspace. Parang sa Photoshop na discussion natin before. You can just rename this like my workspace. And then you can just click OK to save that workspace. In my case, I have created my workspace. Ayan, so existing na siya. And then I can just always switch back to that workspace kung ano yung settings na ginawa ko recently. Ayan. So, that's it for the panels. Okay? Artboards and canvas na discuss ko na kanina. So, always dito tayo nagdo-drawing or nag-illustrate dun sa may artboard. Fill and stroke, kagaya sa Adobe Animate. So, available dito si fill and stroke since vector din. So, technically, pag sinabi nating fill, we're talking about yung mga colors na to. Like, eto. Fill color na to. Iba-iba yung fill colors nila. Ayan. Iba-iba yung fill colors. Like that. Pag sinabi naman nating stroke is, like halimbawa, siguro dalhin natin siya dito. As you can see, I can just easily copy and paste my graphic papunta sa other artwork. So etong sample graphic na to, siya, fill color lahat, no? Pero yung stroke niya, na example is this. Yung line dito, yung sa bandang fit niya, ayan. So stroke yan. Stroke properties ang gamit ko dito. Stroke as in lines. So makikita nyo dito, class, sa tools panel natin. Meron kayo makikita ang icon here na dito sa bandang upper part, meron siyang white, no? Meron siyang white, naka-diagonal na red. Ibig sabihin, none ang ibig sabihin nito. But this section is fill. Tas eto naman, yung section na to is yung stroke. Okay? So, you get the idea. Yung stroke na brown color na to represents these lines. Tapos, etong fill color, nakaset siya into none. So, if you want to have some fill color, double-click mo lang siya. Tapos, pwede mo siya lagyan ng fill. Pero, since line yung gamit ko dito, hindi ko siya pwede lagyan ng fill kasi line siya. Halimbawa, gusto ko lagyan ng stroke yung let's say yung eyes niya dito. So I can just click yung white ko dyan. Let's say I'm going to use this tool, si direct selection tool. Si-switch lang tayo ng tool. Kiklik ko siya so I can select it properly. After selecting that, I can go back to selection tool para di ko magalaw yung mga anchor points niya. And then, as you can see here, yung fill color niya is white. Diba? Yung stroke color is set into none. So I can click yung stroke. I can double click yung stroke para may mag-appear na dialog box for color picker. I can set a color para sa stroke niya. Let's say, saselect ako ng color medyo dark color siguro, dark gray, like that. And then as you can see, nagkaroon na siya ng outline or tinatawag nating stroke. So ito yung stroke, yung line, yung fill, yung color inside. Okay. Now, so to switch between fill and stroke, you can just always click yung shape, tapos click mo yung stroke here or yung fill. Let's say gusto natin ibalik into none, I can click stroke and then click none on this icon so para mawala yung stroke. So again, in Adobe Illustrator, yun yung ating stroke and fill. Okay? So easy lang naman siyang mag-gets. Properties panel, I think nabanggit ko siya kanina, so you can always have yung properties niya. But to show you, katulad na ginawa natin kanina, habang naka-click ako dito sa circle na to, sa white circle na yan, I can go here, hide ko muna tong color. I can go here, ayan, and expand ko lang to. Yung icon na to actually is yung properties panel. Sa properties panel, mapapansin nyo class na pinapakita niya yung appearance niya. Ano yung color ng stroke, nakaset siya into none. Yung color ng fill, ito siya, white. So dito din class, pwede nyo ring iset yung opacity no fill, katulad yan, medyo nag-ano siya, transparent. Ayan, as I'm adjusting it, diba? Meron din ditong ibang properties minsan, ng mga short properties like properties for transform, properties for appearance. Tapos you can click this para ma-open yung other settings. But ayun, as you can see, you can always click anything here sa properties niya to set any values or properties. And depende sa gawa nyo. Like for example, ito naka-group siya. Depende yung ipapakita niya properties like this. Yan. So sabi niya group daw siya. Yung kanina kasi single circle lang siya na path. So, ito, group naman. So, ano yung mga properties na pwedeng meron sa kanya? Merong pathfinder na din-display kanina, wala naman, appearance, etc. So, yan class yung sa properties panel natin. Okay? So, depende sa shape or path or group. Layers and grouping. Okay, sa Adobe Illustrator, layers and grouping. Actually, siguro, let's try to create our own artboard muna. Mamaya pakita kung paano mag-create ng new file. But in this case, pakita ko lang na pwede ako mag-create dito ng different objects like this. Pwede ako mag-create ng ellipse. Tapos, with this color. Ellipse color natin. Ellipse. Tapos, blue. Ayan. So, here class, kung napansin ninyo, I have only one layer, right? I have only one layer, yung default layer ko. But, nakagawa ako ng two objects or even more. Like that. So, as you can see, nakapag-create ako ng more objects here. And sa Adobe Illustrator kasi, it allows us to easily add objects kahit na one layer lang meron tayo. Unlike sa Photoshop, layers by layers or layer by layer yung pag-add natin ng graphic. Tapos Adobe Illustrator also allows yung pag-arrange ng mga objects. Unlike Adobe Animate din pala, sa Adobe Animate, kapag nag-merge na ng ganyan yung mga objects natin or shape, you'll see literally na nagka-cut or nagtitrim na yung mga shapes. Sa Adobe Illustrator, hindi pa. Okay? So, merong other way on how to cut things or shapes here. Tapos dito, yan. So, as you can see, isang layer lang, pwede maraming object. Isang layer lang, maraming object. Pwede ka mag-right click any object na meron ka, and then you can just always arrange it, send to back, bring to front, etc. Parang PowerPoint, parang Word document, pag nag-add kayo ng shapes or anything like that. Diba? You can also select yung mga objects mo like this, and then you can group or Control G. So, that way, makakapag-group ka ng mga objects. So, ganun yung idea sa Adobe Illustrator when it comes to layers and grouping. Ano naman yung isolation mode? Yung isolation mode is something like this. Let's say meron ako ditong other object. Gawa tayo ng other object, other shape. Tatanggalan ko siya ng stroke. So, I'm going to click stroke, set it into none. Tapos, gagawa ko ng circle. Like that. So, gawa pa ako ng another circle. Ayan, gawa tayo ng maraming circles. Okay, so let's say for example, you want to edit these objects. Maganda yung ginawa ko na example na ginroup ko siya. Tapos pag gusto kong i-modify yung mga shape ko, let's say halimbawa, gusto kong modify yung color nito or what, nang hindi ko natatamaan yung mga circles accidentally, I do advise na gamitin natin yung power ng pag-group or grouping like this, ginroup ko siya. Tapos class, katulad sa Adobe Animate, pwede kang mag-group, 'di ba? Kapag nag-group ka sa Adobe Illustrator, same lang din, pwede kang mag-double click ngayon sa group. Imagine niyo class, pag nag-group kayo, it's like you are putting these shapes into a transparent plastic. Pwede nyo isipin yon na kapag ka nag-double click ka, pwede kang pumasok inside that plastic. You can go to that area or yung tinatawag na isolation mode. Okay? Sa isolation mode, may kita natin kapag nag-double click ka. Let's say, i-zoom ko lang. Alright. So, naka-group to, right? So, pwede ko itong i-double click now. Pag double click ko siya, mapansin nyo na magkakaroon ng extra label dito sa itaas where it says na nasa loob tayo ngayon, nakapasok tayo sa isolation mode ngayon ng isang group where yung group na yon inside siya sa layer 1. Tapos mapansin nyo rin yung mga circles kanina, mas lalong nag-wash out yung color nila, di ba? So double click, lalong nag-wash out, and then di natin sila ngayon magagalaw or madadamay any editing na gawin natin inside this group. So it is a good feature dito sa Illustrator na to have this para hindi nadadama yung other objects when you are editing something. Okay? You can always go back outside, like clicking this back one level, or double click ka na lang sa labas ng mga objects mo na to go back dun sa mismong layer mo. Okay? So that is the isolation mode na sinasabi natin. Okay? Alright. So proceed. Now let's proceed here. Useful shortcuts. Alright. So dito sa mga shortcuts natin, meron pang other shortcuts class, of course. But let me show you these. Yung mga shortcuts na to. If you want class, pwede nyong i-take ito as screenshot para meron kayong copy. Though it's sent ko naman tong PowerPoint presentation natin na to. Yung outline. Tsaka yung recording, I'll be sending you a recording ng discussion natin. I know this software is bago sa inyo. So, para pwede nyong i-revisit yung lesson natin or yung session natin today. Okay? So, you can take screenshots muna dun sa mga shortcuts natin tapos pwede nyong i-double check mamaya pag ina-apply na natin. Okay? But, as you are checking here, mapansin natin na almost the same yung mga shortcuts sa Photoshop, right? So, yung zoom in, zoom out, like that. Space bar, hold space bar, panning. Okay. So, now, if you have noticed, again, almost the same yung mga shortcuts. Ang pinaka naiiba dito is yung una, Control Z, yung undo. Naiiba sa Photoshop, I mean. Okay, sa Photoshop kasi, if you are going to undo things, you need to hit Control Alt Z for multiple undo, 'di ba? Pag multiple yung undo, Control Alt Z yung shortcut natin. Pero sa Adobe Illustrator, Control Z lang, okay na. Okay, kahit multiple undo pa yan, Control Z lang yung gagamitin natin. And then, shortcut for grouping, kasi mostly mag-groupings tayo ng mga shapes or paths. Sa paste naman, eto, since nakita nyo naman kanina, eto pala sila. Nakita nyo kanina, pwede mag-arrange, di ba? Pwedeng i-send to back, bring to front, yung mga objects natin. Aside from Control V, meron tayong Control F, Control B as in back. Tapos paste in place, meron din. Now, yung paste in front, tsaka paste in back, tsaka paste in place, almost the same lang. Ang pinagkaiba is that yung paste in place, almost the same sa ni Control F. Bale ganito. Pag may kinapi ka na object, let's say kinapi mo siya, kapag ipe-paste mo na, si Control V, pine-place niya anywhere dun sa screen, di ba? So, as an example, let me get this. Head ko muna yung layer. Add tayo ng new layer. So, let's say for example, I have this owl. Ayan. Now, if you have, for example, have this drawing or object na kinapi natin, so ikakopy ko siya. Kapag nag-paste ako, Control V, randomly, hahanapin niya sa screen or ipe-paste niya sa screen or anywhere yung object mo. So, copy, tapos Control V, ayan, pinaste niya anywhere. Yun yung Control V. Pero kapag sinabi nating Control F, so kakopy ko to, ayan, copy ko yan. Pag Control F, ayan, napansin nyo nagkaroon ng highlights dito ulit sa object natin. Kasi pag sinabing Control F, ano siya, paste din, pero paste in front. Meaning, kung saan yung location nung kinapi mo, dun din siya mape-paste. And yung location niya is above. Which is eto yun. Ito yung bago. Location is above nung original object. Yun yung Control F. Ngayon, kapag Control B, copy, yan. Nag-copy na ako. Tapos Control B, mapansin ninyo na magkakaroon ulit ng object here. Pero, yung pinaste mo talaga is eto yung nasa ibaba. So, pinaste niya below nung original location ng image mo. Tapos, kapag kinapy mo ulit to, tsaka nag-Control Shift V. Ayan. Kapareho siya ni Control F. Paste in place. Meaning, ipipaste mo siya sa place nung kinapy mong object. Magandang way. Ayan, yan yung shortcut natin. Magandang way ng paggamit sila, lalo na pag may ginagawa ka na graphic. Let's say, for example, kinapy ko to, tapos nag-Control Shift V ako, for example. Pwede ko na siyang i-drag lang dito noon. Let's say, left side or right side. Sure ako na they are aligned properly, horizontally. O kaya, aligned properly, vertically. So, kapag when it comes to alignment, kahit papaano, sure tayo na may pagka-align sila, horizontally man or vertically, like that. So, dun sa nakakatulong. Okay? So, let's have these basic actions. How to create new file, open, insert, image, tapos, save a document, paano magsa-save. Tapos, discuss na din natin class yung export. Okay? I know, nasa bandang last part siguro to ng topic. Baka lesson 3 or lesson 4, pero sama na natin para you have the general idea kapag nag-create ka ng graphic, paano mo sila i-export to different files, diba? So let's go back. Let me close this document. And then let's create a new file. So let me go here sa file, then new. So lagi naman ganito yung process no when you create a new file, mostly kahit sa ibang software. So file new or create new file. Now, dun sa mga older version ng Adobe Illustrator, pag nag-Control N ka or file new, baka ito yung makita ninyong settings. Okay? As in, ano yung name ng file, ano yung size, width and heights. Pwede rin mag-select ka dun sa mga nakaset na size na available. Bleeding, especially pag printable. Color mode, if anong purpose ng graphic mo. If you want to select or if you want to create graphic para sa digital screens, yan, you can use or you can check RGB. Like halimbawa, pang website, pang mobile, ayan, pang monitor, yan, RGB. Kapag for printing, CMYK. Medyo magmumukhang wash out ng konting colors, but it is good, printer friendly kapag CMYK. And yun, ganito yung interface. Not sa older version ng Illustrator. Sa newer version ng Illustrator, ito yung interface when you create a new file. Okay? Meron ka ditong mga categories like for mobile, for web, for print. Yan. So, these are all the templates available na may nakaset ng size and width. Depende sa gusto natin. Let's say for web, gagawa ka ng web mockup. You can choose this one or this one. Or for mobile, ayan, may mga nakaset ng size. I usually click web. Minsan, art and illustration. Depende. So, I usually click web kasi more on digital screen yung nagagawa. Tapos, you can select anything, any here, any template. Tapos, so with, pwede ko naman i-customize. So, let's say 1, 3, tapos, let's say 900. Okay na yun. And then, pixels. Tapos, portrait ba or landscape? You can click advanced options to set in color mode. And more settings yung kanina. Then you can click create. So that way, you can create your own document. Okay. Now, when you create a document, you can also save this, syempre. So, I advise na save nyo na agad. So, you can click save as, save copy, or save. I usually click save as para hindi ko accidentally nare-replace yung mga ibang files. Okay. So, let's have here. Yan. So, ito yung file name. Tapos, ito yung file types na pwede nating gamitin. But .ai is yung generic file type for Illustrator. So, click natin yung save. Ito yung editable version in short. So, click save. And then, just click OK. So, that's just how you save it. You can open a file and then insert image. If you open a file or open a document, eto lang, file open lang yung gagawin mo. Yan. Then you can select your AI files, no, to open. Meron din ditong file place. Yan. Ano yung file place? If you want to place an image dito, ito yung method, file place. Tapos hanapin mo yung image na gusto mong i-add. Let's say meron ako ditong sketch. Kunyari, nag-sketch ka, tapos pinicturean mo siya, tapos nilagay mo sa computer or in-scan mo siya, click place. Pag ginawa mo yon, yung mouse pointer mo, magkakaroon siya ng parang thumbnail nung image. Then you can just click anywhere. Okay. We'll click tayo sa labas. Yan. Click anywhere. Yan. Para ma-place yung image. So, file, place. And then, sa Adobe Illustrator, napakadali din. Hindi mo na kailangang mag-hit ng shortcut or anything just to transform your object, just to resize your object. Sa Photoshop kasi, you have to hit Control T kapag select ka ng object. Do kapag nag-add ka ng image, automatic lumalabas na yung handles. So dito, you'll see na when I click here, mapansin nyo class na meron ng handles agad yung object natin. Pag nag-click, you can hold shift, tapos click and drag para uniform yung sizing. Okay. Class, kino-compare ko man sa Illustrator sa Photoshop. I am not saying that Illustrator is a replacement for Photoshop because Photoshop is a pixel-based application software for photo manipulation, photo enhancement. For those specific goals, Photoshop is the best. Okay? Pero when it comes to vector illustrations and creation, sa Illustrator tayo. So, ganun yung idea. I'm just comparing it to Photoshop kasi so that you can easily grasp yung similarities nila and differences. So, yun. And then, when you place an image, let's say gusto mong i-vector yung scan or what image na yan, you can lock it, yung layer niya. Tapos, create ka ng new layer like that. Then, you can start adding some vector assets here. Okay? Tapos, Control S lang yung save. And then, save. Na-discuss natin save. Exporting assets. Okay. Exporting assets is just technically other way ng saving. Pero, export yung ginagamit if you want to save into multiple formats. Like, for example, you want to save it into JPEG or like PNG. Ayan. So, try natin yun. Una, let's show yung export as. Okay. Let's say I have this sketch. Tapos gusto kong add ng vector here. So, I'll be using pen tool. Si pen tool is the same lang sa pen tool sa Photoshop. May konting difference pero almost the same lang. So, you're creating custom paths and anchor points. So, pen tool. Sa fill color, kiklik ko to. Tapos set ko into none. Class, I do advise na before tayo mag-drawing, you always click your tool, tapos set properties muna. Palaging ganun. Like yung ginagawa ko ngayon, pagka-click sa pen tool, hindi naman agad ako nag-drawing na. Okay? So, ang ginagawa ko is, after you click your tool or select your tool, set properties muna. Yun yung step number 2. Step number 3, doon ka pala magdodrawing. So, tool, set properties. So, fill color, none. Tapos yung stroke, let's say, baguhin ko siya. Double click. I can select a color here. Let's say medyo dark color like that. And then, I can start working here. Click. Tapos, click. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same. Tapos, ang gagawin ko dito is probably i-adjust ko yung guide, yung anchor guide niya dito. So, I can properly have yung gusto kong gawin na curve So, katulad sa Photoshop, you just have to hold yung control sa keyboard, diba? Control. Tapos, move natin ng konti itong guide na to. I-reduce natin ng konti yung size. Tapos, when you release yung pagkaka-hold, yan, pwede na natin i-click yung part na yan. Tapos, ulit. So, click and drag. Tapos, sobra ulit. So, hold ko yung control to move. Hold control. Ayan. And then, click. Click and drag. Click. Ayan. Now, ang next part is, gusto ko let's say pointed yung part na to. And then, gusto ko mawala na yung anchor guide dyan. Instead of holding control, yung sinabi natin before sa Photoshop, you're holding Alt. Diba? So, hold mo yung Alt. Tapos, you can click this. So, habang naka-hold ako sa Alt, i-click ko yung point na to para mawala yung guide. So, click. Habang naka-hold dun sa Alt. Wait. Alt. Click. Ayan. So, na-remove na yung guide. So, I can now click point to point dyan para pag-create ako ng pointed. Ayan. Tapos, pwede ka mag-click and drag ulit. Curve. Tapos, pwede nating drag this one. Tapos, curve. Like that. Okay? Also, sa pen tool, sa Adobe Illustrator, if you are creating curves like this, tas gusto mo pointed yung next from here, ayan, let's say, ayan. Tas gusto natin hindi siya magka-curve like this, gusto natin pointed na. Sabi ko kanina, hold mo yung Alt, tsaka mo i-click yung points. Kahit na hindi mo na i-hold yung Alt sa Illustrator, kahit hindi mo na hold yung Alt, basta click mo lang yung points, yung anchor point, yung pinaka-latest point mo. Kahit hindi ka naka-hold sa Alt, just click this. Mawala na automatically yung guide for that, and then you can just click here to close, and ayan siya. Now, I have this shape now. I can also add like a fill color inside. So, ginawa ko lang is click ko to, ayan, sinelect ko yan, tapos here sa fill color nakaset siya yung tunan, diba? So, i-click ko yan, fill color, tapos pwede tayo mag-select ng color na gusto natin. Let's say, I can select like a little bit of golden yellow. Tapos dun sa stroke niya, i-click ko yung stroke. Or, I can select this shape actually. Tapos dun sa stroke, pwede kong adjust yung weight. Let's say, dito sa itaas. Set ko siya, let's say, 5 pixels. Like that. Or 4. Yan. Okay. Tapos, let's say meron tayong other assets na pwedeng gawin. You want to create a rounded rectangle here. Like that. Tapos, gusto natin siya lagyan, for example, ng text. Yan, play. Tapos, click ko yung text. Set ko yung color. Actually, pwede naman dito. Into white. Or rather, purple na lang din. So, I can just drag it here. Yan. Kunyari, makikreate tayo ng buttons. Diba? Tapos, select all. Select ko to. Control G. Yan. So, yan. So, example lang naman. As you can see here, I have created this part, tsaka ayan. Now, what if meron na akong mga vector assets ko like this. So, meron na akong asset nito, vector asset niyan, tsaka itong play button na to. What if gusto ko silang i-export or i-save? Ayan, yung nagawa ko na. Nilagay ko siya outside ng canvas. Sa Photoshop, kung ano yung nasa loob ng, sa Photoshop, kung ano yung nakalagay dito sa white area na to, yun yung nasa save natin, di ba? Sa Photoshop. Sa Illustrator, it is a little bit way different. So, you can go click File. Tapos, I can go click export. Meron ditong export as or export for screens. Try muna natin yung export as. Ito yung default. So, when I click export as, may mag-a-appear dito kung saan natin siya i-save, of course. And then, in this case, nakikita nyo na dito yung PNG, yung JPEG. Kasi class yung, di ba yung save kanina? Pwede mo siyang i-save as .ai, PDF. Pero hindi nyo nakikita doon yung JPEG, yung PNG, may PSD pa nga. Yan. So, dito, gusto nyo i-save ng PNG, gusto nyo i-save ng JPEG. Ang gagawin nyo lang is, again, export. Okay? Hindi save, export. File, export, export as. Tapos, let's say, first file at PNG. Sige, okay na yon. Meron tayong option to check, use artboards. Pwede ring uncheck. Pero, paano pag hindi natin chinek yung use artboards? Try kong i-click yung export, and then click yung OK. Mapansin natin na pag inopen natin yung folder natin here, this is yung first file.png. You'll notice, class, na sinave ni Adobe Illustrator yung scanned document natin, pati na rin yung mga assets outside no artboard natin. Yung mga nasa canvas, kahit outside na yan, sinave pa rin niya. So, possible na gusto nyo ganito yung way na pag-save. Possible na hindi ganito yung way. So, how can I save this document without these? Kanyari, meron kang kung ano mga draft outside, katulad nung meron ako dito. Yan, meron ako mga anything outside. So, paano ko siya masasave without showing all of these? Diba? So, gagawin mo lang is you go to File. File. And then Export. Tapos, yan, meron pang export selection. But I can just go to click Export. Tapos, Export as. And then you can click this, yung use artboard. Ibig sabihin, kung ano lang ang nasa loob ng artboard. Okay? PNG or JPEG, pwede rin. Then, click Export. So, itong first file, v2.jpg. Just click OK. If you want to adjust, parang sa Photoshop, adjustment lang ng quality natin. I think those settings are good na. So, ayan na. So, here, mapapansin nyo, class, na na-save ko yung file without showing these assets na nasa canvas or outside na ng artboard. So, again, just click nyo lang yung use artboards. Yes, sir. Paano pag ganito naman? Ayan. Nagkikreate po ako ng web mockup or nagkikreate po kami ng mobile app. Tapos, meron kaming gustong mga ilagay na icons. Meron kaming gustong ilagay na shapes. Like sa Android Studio, ilaload po namin yung mga images, yung mga assets, o kaya nag-create po kami ng game using Unity or what. O kaya sa website ko po, gusto ko ma-load ko yung mga PNG files na to na ginawa ko sa Illustrator para meron akong theme, etc. Mga files. Yan. So let's say you have these different assets. Meron ka ng button, meron kang kung ano-ano mga assets na yan. Gusto mo silang i-save separately as, let's say, PNG files. Kasi nga, maganda kung transparent yung background. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 assets. Paano mo to i-export as individual assets? So, gagamitin na natin itong Asset Export Panel. So, yung tinatawag na Export for Screens. Ito yun. So, pag nag-click ako sa file, Export, kung napansin nyo, mayroon ditong Export for Screens, diba? So, when you click Export for Screens, you can select yung mga assets na gusto mo i-export or lahat ng artboards na gusto mong i-export or mga artboards na ayaw mong ma-export. Pwede mong i-set dito. Pero what I usually do is this. Kasi dito, meron pa siyang instruction na gamitin mo daw sa Asset Export Panel. So, ito lang yun, no? So, window, makikita nyo dito yung Asset Export. But by default, nandito lang yan. Katabi niya si Layers Panel. Ito yung Asset Export. So, kiklik mo yung Asset Export. Ayan. Tapos, nakalagay mo sa instruction, just drag all of your artworks here on this side. So, select ko yung mga yan. Ayan. Selected ko na sila. Or you can select all of this. 4 yan. And then, you can just drag them here on this area dito sa asset export. So, na-drag ko lang sila dyan. Ayan, you'll notice na automatic din para nilalagay na niya into specific container yung mga to. So, may asset 1, asset 2, asset 3, asset 4. Tapos, you can just click export. Pero, what I usually do is click this button para may mag-appear na dialog box for exporting. And then, when you export your graphics here, you can check yung mga gusto mong i-export tsaka yung mga ayaw mong i-export. Like that. And then, you can just find yung folder na gusto mo. Let's say, ito yung selected folder ko kung saan ma-output yung mga yan. Pwede mo lagyan ng prefix, pwedeng hindi. Pero let's say, ginagamit mo yung mga assets na to for your mobile app or web. For example, meron kang project sa web or web mockup. My website. Ito, para magkakaroon ng prefix bawat name. Kumbaga lahat to magkakaroon ng my website asset 1, my website asset 2. Lahat sila may nakalagay na my website sa name nila, sa prefix. Pwede rin wala. This is just optional. Okay? And sa format, you can just change into PNG or JPEG. I advise PNG para transparent background. And sa format, you can just imagine na yung quality, if nakaset siya into 1x, ito yung default. Pag nakaset into 2x, parang i-multiply niya by 2 yung quality. So, mas magiging large yung file, yung size. Pero, depende sa artwork mo. Minsan, di naman ganun kalakihan yung size na ina-add niya. So, sometimes, ginagamit ko yung 2x para twice yung quality niya. But yung 1x is just okay. So, I can click Export Asset now. Automatic, i-export niya yung mga images. Tapos, i-open niya yung folder mo kanina kung saan mo in-export. Tapos, meron kayo makikita na folder can rate na niya as 1x quality. When you double-click this, makikita nyo na nandito na lahat ng PNG para siya nag-batch export. Unlike the old days ng pag-export sa Illustrator before, as I remember, the idea na ginagawa is parang nilalagay pa to separately sa layers, tas i-hide mo yung iba para lang isa lang ang ma-export mo. Tas after mong gawin yon, i-show mo na ulit sila, tas mag-file export ka na naman pa isa-isa, file export, tas i-hide mo na naman yung mga to. Yan. File export, tas after that i-hide mo yung mga iba like this para ma-export mo lang yan. File, export, pa isa-isa asset, something like that. So, this feature, yung asset export natin, is a good way on batch export processes. Like that. Yan. So, in that way, class, napakita ko sa inyo on how to just export your file as AI, or if you want PDF, if you want kasama yung artboards or hindi, and if you want to export different assets for your mobile or web projects, something like that. Okay? So, ito yung mga basic actions na normally gagawin, okay, sa Illustrator. And then, for lesson 2, sa module natin, it talks about basic drawing and selection. So, it starts with selection tools, basic drawing, etc. So, if you're going to browse yung module natin, it works like that. Yan. Layers. Ayan. Sa lesson 1, bago kayo mag-end ng lesson 1, please paka-check yung module. Lesson 1, meron dito class na creating your first artwork. So, these topics are from adobe.com. No? So, pwede nyong i-check. Meron siyang step-by-step instructions like this on how to create basic shapes. Alright? And then, sa lesson 2, basic drawing and selection, you can have these topics like nag-start mo na sa selection tool, tapos direct selection tool, tsaka yung mga other shapes na pwede nyong gawin. Sa lesson 2 natin, in a different way, ang gagawin ko is, didiscuss ko muna yung mga yan, basically. Tapos baka abutin natin hanggang dito sa may transforming shape. Tapos by the end of this session, we'll be making our own illustration or graphic with just basic shapes. Sa lesson, sa lesson 3, complex shapes na yung gagawin. So, ang challenge is create an illustration using basic shapes mamaya. Okay? Okay, so let me hide this layer. Hide. Then create na lang ako ng bagong layer. Let's say layer 3. Save. And let's talk about some selection tools. Okay. The selection tool, ganito lang. Ang selection tool na makikita nyo dito sa Photoshop, sa Illustrator, ay ito lang. Si selection tool, direct selection tool, magic wand, tsaka lasso tool. Unlike Photoshop na meron siyang mga elliptical marquee tool, magnetic lasso tool, meron siyang mga ganun. Dito sa Illustrator, ito lang, konti lang, as in limited lang yung selection kasi it is not Illustrator is not meant for selecting background tapos tatanggalin yung background or what. More on creation ka kasi dito. So, yung mga selection niya, ang focus na more on dun sa mga gagawin mong mga shapes. So, let's start. Say, I'll create a shape from here. Tapos, create din ako ng other shape. Bayan natin ng konti yung color. That. Tapos, create din tayo ng shape na walang stroke. Okay. So, from here, now, mapansin natin na I have different shapes. Paano natin papakita yung sa selection? Una, by default, meron tayong tinatawag na selection tool. Sa selection tool natin, ito yung black arrow na to. Ayan. So, it's just being used to just move objects or let's say, select objects generally, isa o dalawa or multiple o lahat. Pwede nating i-select. Si direct selection tool naman, kapareho niya lang din na pwedeng i-select to, select yan. But, technically, si direct selection tool, mas mas focus sa pag-select ng path tsaka ng mga anchor points. Let's say dito, pwede kong i-select itong star. Then you'll notice na pinapakita niya lahat ng mga anchor points na meron ka dyan. And then using direct selection tool din, you can double click yung mga anchor points like this. Tapos pwede mo pa silang i-drag. Double click, drag. Double click, drag. Double click, drag. Yun, di ba? So, yun yung si direct selection tool. Si magic wand tool naman, same din ng idea doon sa Photoshop. Basta ka-similar color niya, isa-select niya yan. So, click yung magic wand. Pag nag-click ako dito sa may shape na to, isa-select niya na din niya pati yung circle. Kung napansin niyo, selected na din si circle. Kasi same color sila. Now, ito namang isa si lasso tool. Bale, freeform selection siya. Ayan. So, freeform selection. Pwede. Kaya, medyo complex yung pagsaselect mo like this. Para hindi madama yung ibang objects, you can use this. Si lasso tool. Alright? Yun lang. Yun lang yung sa selection tools natin. Next natin is yung mga basic drawing tools natin. Meron tayong line tool, pencil tool. So, let's have line tool and pencil tool. Sa line tool natin, actually, ito yung line tool. Meron ding arc tool. So, when you click line tool or arc tool, no, ang nire-represent nilang color is yung nasa stroke. So, when you click line tool, yan, set natin yung fill into none, tapos yung stroke into this color or different color, pwede rin. Tapos, gano'n yung weight niya, let's say 4. So, line. Yan. Sa Adobe Illustrator, again, iba yung way ng pagka-cut ng objects. Unlike sa Adobe Animate, automatic nagka-cut na yan pagka nag-merge sila, di ba? Pero sa Adobe Illustrator, hindi pa. So, ibang way kung gusto mo silang i-cut. Tapos, si Arc Tool, ganun din. Line Tool din siya. Na curve naman. To create arcs. Tapos, meron din tayong tinatawag na pencil tool. So, ito yung pencil tool. So, you want to have custom drawing, custom strokes. And yung pencil tool. What else? Meron tayong brush tool din. Yan. So, si brush tool, ito naman. Sa brush, meron tayong two types ng brush. So, si paintbrush saka si blob brush. Si paintbrush, it works like this. So, let's say, magpa-paint ako dito ng one stroke. 1. Tapos, another brush. 2. Tapos, 3. Ayan. So, nag-paint ako using paintbrush 3 times. Diba? So, pag nag-click ka ngayon dito, or niroll over mo lang yung mouse, mapansin mo na ito yung mga stroke na ginawa kanina sa brush. Pwede pa rin sila maghiwa-hiwalay. But, dito sa blob brush tool, it works like paintbrush din, but in a different way. So, kahit mag-stroke ako dito ng, let's say, 1 stroke, ayan, 1 stroke ng brush. Tapos, mag-stroke ulit ako dito ulit. Second stroke ng brush. Ayan. Tapos, third stroke, another ulit. Yan, so kahit tatlong stroke ng brush yun, mapansin nyo dito, using blob brush tool, the idea is, nagma-merge sila. Automatic. So, maganda to kapag meron tayong mga finifill na gaps. No? Halimbawa, nag-blob brush tool ka kanina, or may pinipaint ka, tapos nagkaroon ng gap, like that. So, in order to close that, you can use blob brush tool, tapos paint over it, and then you'll see na nag-combine din sila automatic. So, yan yung blob brush tool, tsaka si paintbrush tool. And of course, eraser tool. Erase lang. Yan. So, alam nyo na yan. Si eraser tool. Okay? Brush tool, eraser tool. Shape tools. Okay. So, shape tools, although nakapag-create na tayo ng sample, shapes dito, nakita nyo naman, what you usually do here kapag mag-shape, dito tayo. Ayan. So, if we're going to create shapes, like here, I'm going to create a rectangle. So, click ko lang yung rectangle. Set ako ng property ko. Let's say, ito yung fill. Wala siyang stroke. And then, rectangle. If you want to create a perfect square, just hold mo lang yung shift. Tapos, click and drag. Diba? So, perfect square. Same thing sa ellipse. hold mo yung shift, perfect circle or oval. Yan. Sa Polygon naman, you can click Polygon Tool. Tapos, si Polygon kasi, you can create mga polygons with 5 sides, 6 sides, etc. So, when you click here, tapos, nag-drawing ka kaagad, if nakaset siya, sa kanya by default is hexagon, hexagon lagi yung makikreate mo. Pero, if you want to modify yung sides ng mga polygon mo, na i-create mo, you can just click Polygon Tool, tapos wag ka agad magdo-drawing. So, ang gagawin mo is, makiklik ka muna, wag ka magdo-drawing. So, again, click ko yung Polygon Tool, tapos click ka lang anywhere, as in, literally anywhere. So, click ako dito on this area. Pagka-click, may mag-a-appear na dialog box, where in this dialog box, I can set yung sides, let's say, 4 sides, 5 sides, 3, gusto kong triangle. So, click, and automatically makikreate siya ng triangle. So, again, Polygon, click anywhere, let's say 8 sides, and click OK. So, makikreate siya ng 8 sides na shape. Diba? You can click this using direct selection tool, hold mo yung shift, pwede mo siyang resize. Right? Yan. So, easy lang. Okay, so yung mga next thing to do natin ngayon is we'll create our own drawing using basic shapes. Okay, so class, again, you can revisit yung session natin since recording. Magbibigay ako ng recording sa inyo. So this time, didiscuss na natin yung part kung saan kasama na natin madidiscuss yung may reflect, rotate, drawing with pen tool. Ayan, sama natin yan in this sample demo. Okay. So, let me hide yung layer na to, tapos add tayo ng new layer. Alright. Siguro try natin gumawa ng owl like this. So yung parang base width or height ng owl na gagawin natin is somewhat something like this. Okay, sige. So, back tayo sa file natin. I-zoom ko na lang yung area na to. Okay. Or actually, siguro kopyahin na lang natin to. Yan. So, ito yung magiging base natin na drawing. Okay. So, dito sa base drawing na to, ilalock natin siya. Yan. Nilock natin yung layer. Add tayo ng new layer. Tapos, dito natin lalagay yung drawing natin. Basic drawing. Yan. So, again, nung kinreate ko yung owl na to before, of course, I did not use basic shape. Yan. But rather, ginamitan ko din siya ng medyo compound shape. Kaya, let's have a challenge like this. Basic shape, gamitan natin ng basic shape to create something like this. Baka hindi natin magawa exactly yung gantong-gantong output, but we'll try. Sige. So, let's start. So, first thing, I'll be using a rectangle tool. Meron tayong rounded rectangle, pwede rin as option para dito sa main base ng body niya. But, let me use rectangle tool para makita nyo din ang other option na pwedeng gawin with rectangle tool. Sa rectangle tool, let's say, set ko yung fill color into none, tas stroke lang gagamitin ko. Stroke, let's say, 2 pt lang. And then, sige, try natin gayahin yung base height niya. So, nag-create ako ng square actually. So, hanggat maaari, gayahin natin yung base body. Tapos, yung width is yan, hanggang dito. Okay. So, now, meron na akong rectangle, hindi siya square. So, in-adjust natin yung width and size. Next is, meron akong papakitang feature sa inyo class sa rectangle tool. Okay. Kapag nag-click ka sa isang rectangle, like this, you'll notice na meron siyang handle, di ba? You can resize, width, or height. Pero, aside from that, meron tayong tinatawag dito na rounded corners or round corners. Ito yun, yung mga circle na yan, yung mga dots na to. For every inside nung natin, rectangle. You can click and drag this class actually para mag-rounded yung natin, rectangle. As simple as that. Okay? So, pwedeng, again, click and drag mo lang, magra-rounded na yan. Okay. So, para dun sa base body nung ating owl, yan. Next is I can use pen tool actually, since alam nyo na rin naman gamitin si pen tool. You can just create somewhere here, tapos ka-curve mo na ng konti, ayan, to create yung ear part ng ating owl, di ba? Also, other idea is, aside from using pen tool, you can work around with, let's say, Polygon Tool. Tapos, click tayo anywhere. So, I can set it into 3 sides. Like that. And then, I can just rotate it a little bit like this. Tapos, pwede natin i-resize ng konti. Now, using direct selection tool, I can just click and drag. Yan, para ma-modify natin ng konti yung orientation ng triangle. Tapos, I can just drag ito, yung rounded corner niya, para medyo rounded ng konti yun. Also, I can click somewhere here sa anchor point na to. Ayan. Para makita natin to, yung mga ibang guides na pwede natin gamitin like that. Diba? I can just drag it here. Yan. So, kung gusto natin na medyo rounded pa, like that. Yan. So, you might need more time working with basic shape like this to create like an ear na medyo similar dun sa output natin. But I find it more easy kapag ginamit natin si pen tool. But again, since we are like working with basic shapes lang muna, this should be good as an example. Or, pag may sobrang points, pakita ko lang din, meron ditong delete anchor points, like that. So, I can just click anchor points na hindi natin kailangan. Diba? Or like that. Or like that. Ayan. So, yun. Ayan. So, I guess, this is Okay. Now, gagamitin ko yung ear na to para dun sa side on this part. So, I'll just have to... Wait. Siguro maganda mag-curve pa ng konti. Okay, so, okay na yan. So, copy ko to. Tapos, tandaan nyo yung paste and placed or yung Control F, pwede rin. Or Control Shift V. So, kakopy ko siya. Copy. Control C. Tapos, Control Shift V. Nung nag-Control Shift V ako, automatic pinaste niya dun sa original location, yung kinapin nating image. So, I can just drag this here. Tapos, I can select this again. Right-click. Okay. Right-click. Transform. Tapos, meron tayong makikita ditong reflect. Okay. Pag sinabi nating reflect, you're just like flipping your object. Flip mo siya vertical or horizontal. You can click preview para makita niyo yung effect. No? So, in here, may preview tayo. Vertical, ito yung icon. I can click OK. And then, you can just drag it here. Like that. Now, what else? Actually, pwede na nating gamitin or select yung object na to. So, select na natin yung objects na yan. Tapos, punta tayo sa Tools panel natin kanina. Sa Tools panel, I can set yung fill color maybe into gray. Ay, hindi ko siya na-select. Select. Gray. Tapos, yung stroke, set natin into none. Yan. We can also rotate this a bit. Like that. Tapos, we can still modify, di ba, yung mga anchor points natin like that. I think this is more similar dun sa existing. So, let me transform it again, reflect, and vertical. Tapos, pwede natin i-adjust. Okay. Now, next thing na gagawin natin maybe is yung sa may hair part. So, para ma-demo natin si pen tool ulit. So, sa pen tool, you can create something like this. Click and drag. To create pointed points. Tapos, gaya ng sabi ko kanina, yan. Gaya sabi ko kanina, kung ayaw mo na ng curve ulit yung next line mo, you can just hold Alt, tapos click mo yung point na to para ma-remove. Okay, and then yung next mo pointed na siya, as you can see here. Or other idea is, sabi ko nga, kahit hindi mo na i-hold yung Alt, click mo lang yan, tapos pwede ka mag-create na something curve like that. Tapos click natin to. Yan. Tapos click natin yung point ulit. Click mo lang. Ayan, para ma-remove. Tapos siguro I can just add something like this. Just to close yung path ko. And I can just drag it here. And then using direct selection tool, you can still click direct selection tool, click mo tong path, tapos pwede natin i-adjust it further. Yan. So I guess that works fine on this example. Alright. Now, ano pa? So, pwede nating i-select ngayon tong drawing natin na to. Select. Tapos, group natin. So, pwede. Pag gin-group na natin like that, when you double-click, tandaan nyo class, pwede ka na pumasok dun sa isolation mode niya where pwedeng hindi mo na madamay yung other object outside, tapos yung pag-i-edit mo ng graphic, naka-focus ka na lang on this side, on this part. Para outside nung isolation mode, double click ka lang outside. And, yan. Now, try nating mag-add siguro ng something dun sa isolation mode niya. Or, rather, pwede naman kayo dito sa outside. Mag-add ako ng line segment tool. Tapos, yung line, siyempre walang fill. Yung stroke niya, let's say, add ako ng color like this, a neon color. Nasobran tayo. Okay. So, add ako ng line. Lagyan ko lang siyang guide. Though, pwedeng mag-add ng guide dito, class, sa Illustrator. Pwede naman mag-add ng guides. But, let me do this para lang mapakita natin yung sa alignment panel. So, select ko yung line. Tapos, select ko din tong group na to. I-click ko din siya. Once they are selected, you can go dito sa align panel natin. Okay. Let me drag it here. Yan. So, select natin sila both. Tapos, align to selection natin. Tapos, kiklik ko tong horizontal align center. So, in that way, magkakaroon ng parang line sa center. Gagawin ko siyang guides later on. And then, if you want, class, pwede tayo mag-create ng new layer para dun sa eyes or what. Pero, papakita natin yung example kahit wala tayong extra layer, okay lang. So, pwede kong i-select both ulit to, tapos pwede ko siyang i-group ulit. So, pwedeng mag-group ka lang ng mag-group. Okay? Now, I can go create an ellipse tool. Create tayo ng eyes niya. So, sa properties, stroke into none sa property, siguro select tayo ng different color, maybe a color something like this. Tapos create ako ng circle. Yan. So gagawin natin guide yung line na to para naka-center lang. And then I will increase the size a little bit. That. Yan. So, pwede na yon. So, kakopy ko ngayon to. Ngayon, copy and paste natin. Paste in place. So, copy. Yung paste in place, ang shortcut is Control, Shift, V. Tapos, kita natin na dalawa na sila. I can now click this, yung above. Double click. Tapos, set ako into white color. Now, class, eto pa, yung tip ko sa inyo. Pag ganyan, hold mo yung Shift, tsaka mo siya i-drag, tsaka mo siya din-drag, ang mangyayari, mare-reduce mo yung size and still circle pa rin siya. Ang problema, hindi na siya naka-center, diba? So, ang gagawin mo dito is, i-click mo yan, hold mo yung Shift, tsaka yung Alt. Shift, tsaka yung Alt. Tapos, tsaka mo to, ulit. Shift, Alt, tsaka mo siya i-drag inward. So, you can see here na yung pagre-resize, naka-center. Copy ulit, paste ulit, tapos resize ulit natin. Yan. This time, select ako ng darker color para dun sa eye niya. Tapos copy, paste ulit, resize. Pero this one is white. This should be white. Yan. Okay. After doing that, meron na tayo nung eye niya. Okay. So, select ko yung mga circles na to. Tapos, group. Yan. Again, class, optional. As an option, pwede kayo mag-create ng layer. Let's say, add kayo ng layer. Tapos, rename nyo as eye. No? Para hindi nyo nadadamay yung other graphic dito. But, again, pwede rin naman yung ganitong style. So, I can copy and then paste, Ctrl-Shift-V. Tapos, pwede ko siyang yung bagong pasted object, pwede ko ngayong i-drag somewhere here. Like that. And create natin yung beak naman niya dito. So I can use pen tool. Class, you can always use pen tool. I highly recommend using pen tool. But again, for demonstration purposes, I'm just trying to make this example na using basic shapes. So create natin yung beak niya. Okay, so select tayo na medyo darker color like that. Tapos mag-create ako ng rectangle lang. Square rather. Yan, create ako ng square. Tapos rotate ko siya diagonally. So lalagay ko siya dito. Yan. And then maybe we can adjust using a direct selection tool yung point niya on this area, or you can adjust this area, direct selection tool. Ayan. Tapos resize na lang natin. Like that. Masyado mahaba yung beak. So, lower ng konti. Okay. So, kino-customize natin yung sa may beak area niya. Now, I can actually copy this. Tapos, paste and place. Ngayon, pagka paste and place ko, saselect ako ng mas lighter color para parang ayan siya. Now, which is better? Light or dark? You can also decide na mix natin silang gagamitin. So, by doing this example. So, ang gagawin mo lang is kiklik mo tong lights, tapos punta ka dito sa delete anchor point. Gayahin natin yung gantong style. Okay? So, gagawin ko dito is i-delete ko yung anchor point lang netong lights, yung nakapatong na big na light color. Pag dinelete ko yan, magi-straight na to. So, pag i-click ko yung anchor point by using delete anchor points. Yan. So, in that way, mapansin natin na meron na tayong gantong style na big. So, select ko yan, both, tapos group. As you can see, ginugroup ko lagi yung ginagawa ko. Katulad yan. And then, I can also create a circle or using ellipse rather. Tapos, yung color niya, I can use this class, yung eyedropper tool. So, gusto ko mag-create ng ellipse na ang color is similar to this color. So, gagawin ko lang, ellipse, eyedropper, i-click ko yung color na to. So, ngayon, yung fill color ko automatic na kuha na ni eyedropper. So, babalik ulit ako doon sa ellipse ko. And then, I can now create a shape like this. Now, class, kung nasa complex part lang tayo sana pag-create ng graphic, pwede nating ilagay ito dyan. Tapos, i-cut ko na lang yung excess dyan eh. Di ba? So, merong ganong way. But, again, yung challenge natin is using basic shapes. So, we'll try to do it as much as possible using basic shapes here without using additional tool. So, didiscuss natin yon sa bandang natin. Lesson 3. Okay. So, in this case, I'd like sana naman naka-center ito. So, ang gagawin ko is maybe I can select all of this na muna. Like that. Tsaka ako i-group. Yan. And then, I can place it here. Tapos, select ko yung group. Tapos, align center. So, in that way, isa-center niya to. Next is, ang problem natin is yung sa beak. Dapat naka-upper part siya. So, I can right-click this. Tapos, group din naman. Para ma-access ko yung beak. So, ang gagawin ko dito actually is right-click, arrange, tapos bring to front. Like that. And then, yung shape na to, pwede natin sigurong edit using direct selection tool. To like, customize it the way na pupwede dito sa natin. Example. We may not be we may not be able to perfectly fit it in this example, but we'll try. And so okay na siguro yun. Next time dun sa advanced complex natin, shape, pwede nating modify pa yan. Next is pwede nating i-double click. Pwede kayang i-double click yung shape lang na to. Try natin. Pag nag-double click, and there you have it, mapapansin nyo na makapasok tayo din sa isolation mode ng shape. So para di ko madama yung beak, yung eyes, etc. Now I can use arc tool. Mag-create ako ng arc. And then lalagyan ko siya ng stroke color. Tapos yung color niya is medyo darker, like that. Ngayon yung arc na to ay ilalagay natin as parang extra design natin doon. Para yung scale nung sa owl. Now let me access yung stroke panel here. So meron tayo ditong stroke panel. Ayan. Let me drag it here. Ayan. So yung stroke panel natin, pag nag-click ako sa isang stroke, pwede kong i-modify class yung capping niya. So as you can see, medyo square yung dating. Gusto ko rounded. So pwede kong i-click yan. Tapos i-click ko tong cap na round, like that. So rounded yung cap natin or capping. We can adjust yung size. And then we can resize. Yan. Tapos pwede kong i-click itong stroke. Tapos punta tayo dito sa may stroke profile. Class ito, pwede kayo tayo mag-select ng profile ng stroke na gusto natin. So kahit wala kayong graphics pen or pen tab, pwedeng pointed yung mga stroke na magagawa natin. Let's say for example, i-click ko yung stroke, tapos dito sa option bar, i-click ko yan. Yan, yung notice na naging pointed na yung stroke ko. Like that. And by choosing which stroke is better, I think this one is good. I can now resize this a bit. Tapos copy and paste. Copy and paste. Tapos move. And then select ko yung mga to, tsaka natin i-group. Tapos copy and paste. Double click. May isolation mode din yung group na to, so let me drag it here. Yan. Tapos yep. I think that's okay na. Alright, so nasa isolation mode pa rin tayo. I can go click this. So here, ayan yung owl natin. Next is, I can go group this ulit. Ayan. So para na move natin. I think I don't need to use this line anymore, yung guide na to. So I can double click this. Ayan, so sa makapasok ko sa isolation mode kung saan siya naka-placed. Then I can hit delete. Double click tayo sa labas. And ayun. Next is yung sa may wings part niya. So I can use rectangle tool. Sa rectangle tool natin, gamitan natin siya ng ibang way on how to create yung wing. Siguro, create ako ng rectangle. Okay. Maybe you'll wonder, sir, bakit rectangle lang gagamitin mo, pointed yung wings niya. Diba? So, ito yung gagawin natin, class. Pinakita ko sa inyo kanina, meron siya mga rounded corners, diba? Pwede nating i-drag para maging rounded yung rectangle. Pero, paano yung pointed part na yon? So, meron two ways on how to work around with this rounded corners class. Pwede kang mag-click and drag. Pwede ring double-click muna. Double-click muna dun sa corner. Pagka double-click, pwede mo siyang i-drag. Pag ginawa mo muna yon, pag nag-double-click ka muna bago mo siya i-drag, then, isang corner lang yung madadrag mo like this. So, that way, when I do that, magiging pointed na yung part na to. Diba? So, by clicking this, double-click, tapos drag. Like that. Diba? Now, I can have a fill color here. Double-click. Select tayo ng mas darker color. Tapos yung stroke, none. Okay. Next is, I can rotate this now. Yan. Tapos, arrange lang natin mabuti. Then, I can right-click, arrange, send to back. Tapos, move natin. Using mouse pointer, pwede natin itong i-move. Like that. Yan. And then, now, I can copy and paste it. Tapos, right-click, arrange, send to back. And then, I can go like, right-click ulit, transform, reflect. So, para ma-flip natin siya. Then, I can just drag it here. Like that. Yun. And, masyado siguro malaki yung wings niya. Pwede nating i-group to. Ayan, sinelect ko sila both. Tapos, mas maliit na wings. So, double-click natin yung group na yon. So, I can adjust it. Like that. Or you can click direct selection tool. Direct click natin yung shape. Balik sa selection tool. Tapos, yan. There. And, lastly, on this part is yung sa may paa. Pwedeng gamitin natin yung pen tool or rather line segment tool. Ayan, as much as possible, iniiwasan natin yung pen tool. Ginamit lang natin siya dito sa may bandang hair. Itong ears, triangle kanina yan, in-adjust lang natin. So, line segment tool. Select tayo ng color para dun sa ano niya. And then, I can select then yung width, let's say 4. Pwede na ba yung 4? Yes, pwede na. I can go click and drag on this part. Zoom natin. Tapos, using line tool. Yan. Bawasan lang natin yung size. Like that. And then, yung capping na ito, gawin natin siyang rounded dito sa stroke panel, di ba? So, round cap. Group ko to, tapos copy and paste. Ayan. And then, I can go select, right-click, arrange, send to back. Alright. Can go arrange it. Move pa natin ng konti. Yan. Almost the same. Yan. Almost the same yung nagawa natin. Very similar na yung na-drawing natin. And, well, after that, you can also group this as a whole object like yung original natin kanina. Okay? And, after that, if you want, you can create another layer. Pakita ko lang na yung layer pwede nating i-arrange din para sa Photoshop below. Like that. Ito extra na lang din. No? Pwede tayong create ng additional asset na gusto natin dito. Maybe a darker brown without stroke. We can add like a small branch here. Yan. So, nag-pen tool tayo sa branch na yon. Tapos, using rectangle tool, yung ginawa natin kanina, select lang tayo ng medyo green color. Ayan. Tapos, again, tandaan nyo yung kanina, double click. Pwedeng drag, double click, drag. Ayan. So, pwede tayo mapag-create ng leaf on this area. I can rotate this, copy, tapos paste natin, rotate, yan, lagay natin, arrange, send to back. Oh, I think this is much better option. Yeah. So there you have it, class, yung ating sample demonstration on how to work with Adobe Illustrator with basic shapes and create your own drawing using this example. Okay. So, yun, class. Do you have some questions?